Russia had always believed that its vast railway network was the unbreakable backbone of its military power. However, in a catastrophic and deeply destabilizing turn, that same railway system is now fractured, disrupted, and in some sectors completely paralyzed. What was once Moscow's greatest logistical advantage has become its most dangerous vulnerability. Nearly 200,000 troops are now stranded, unable to move, resupply, or reinforce critical positions. This is not a temporary delay. This is the breakdown of the system that holds the entire Russian war machine together. The images you are about to see on your screens reveal long lines of idle armored trains, abandoned cargo platforms, and troops waiting in freezing silence beside tracks that no longer function. What you see is not just damaged infrastructure. It is a logistical collapse unfolding in real time. But that is not the most shocking detail. There are two specific mechanisms behind this railway disruption, and both indicate a level of precision and planning that changes everything. We will return to these mechanisms shortly, because to understand the scale of this crisis, we must go back to where it began. On February 27, 2026, multiple coordinated strikes targeted key railway junctions across Russia's western military districts. According to reports from the Institute for the Study of War, at least 6 major rail nodes, including hubs near Belgorod, Kursk, and Rostov-on-Don, experienced simultaneous disruption within a 12-hour window. These locations are not ordinary transit points. They are critical arteries through which ammunition, fuel, and personnel flow into Ukraine. When these nodes failed, the impact was immediate and severe. Satellite imagery reviewed by Western intelligence agencies showed extensive damage to switching systems, signaling infrastructure, and rail bridges. In some cases, entire sections of track were rendered unusable. But what made this event catastrophic was not just the physical damage. It was the cascading effect that followed. Russian logistics rely on tightly synchronized rail schedules. When one node fails, delays ripple outward, creating system-wide paralysis. At the time of the disruption, Russia had mobilized approximately 200,000 troops for rotational deployment and reinforcement operations along the Eastern Front. These troops were in transit, moving through the very corridors that were suddenly cut off. Within hours, trains carrying armored vehicles, artillery systems, and infantry units were forced to halt. Some remained stranded for days. Others were rerouted into already congested lines, compounding the chaos. The technical reality behind this collapse begins with targeted infrastructure sabotage combined with electronic interference. According to CSIS analysis, the strikes appear to have focused not only on physical tracks but on digital control systems that manage rail traffic. Modern railway networks depend heavily on automated signaling and centralized control centers. Disrupt these systems, and trains cannot safely operate even if tracks remain intact. Ukrainian forces, supported by intelligence from NATO partners, seem to have exploited this vulnerability with remarkable precision. Fiber optic communication lines connecting rail control centers were severed or jammed. Without these connections, operators lost visibility over train positions and track conditions. Safety protocols forced immediate shutdowns across affected regions. In other words, even undamaged rail lines became unusable. But there is a second layer, one that transforms disruption into strategic catastrophe. Reports indicate the use of long-range drones equipped with delayed detonation mechanisms targeting repair crews and maintenance equipment. Each time Russian engineers attempted to restore damaged tracks, new strikes followed. This created a cycle where recovery efforts triggered further destruction. The railway system was not just hit once. It was systematically denied the ability to recover. This brings us to the strategic implications. Railways are the lifeline of Russia's military logistics. Unlike NATO forces, which rely heavily on truck-based supply chains, Russia depends on rail transport for large-scale movement of troops and heavy equipment. Tanks, artillery, and ammunition are all designed to move efficiently by rail. Remove that capability, and operational tempo collapses. In the Donetsk and Luhansk sectors, Russian units began reporting shortages of artillery shells within 48 hours of the disruption. Fuel deliveries slowed. Reinforcements failed to arrive on schedule. Ukrainian forces, recognizing this window of vulnerability, intensified pressure along key front lines. Within 3 days, several contested positions were abandoned not because of direct assault, but because resupply became impossible. The scale of territorial impact is difficult to quantify, but preliminary estimates suggest that over 150 square kilometers of frontline positions became unstable due to logistical breakdown. This is not a traditional battlefield defeat. It is a structural failure where the ability to sustain combat simply disappears. Now the picture expands. What does this mean beyond the battlefield? According to geopolitical analysis from NATO defense ministries and European intelligence agencies, this railway disruption signals a shift in how modern wars can be fought. Infrastructure, once considered a secondary target, is now the primary battlefield. Destroy the network and the army collapses without direct confrontation. Historically, railways have determined the outcome of major conflicts. In World War II, the German advance into the Soviet Union was slowed by rail gauge differences and logistical constraints. Today, the same principle applies, but with modern precision. Instead of broad disruption, we are witnessing surgical strikes that achieve maximum effect with minimal resources. Economic consequences are also emerging. Russia's railway system is not only military infrastructure, but a key component of its civilian economy. Freight transport, energy distribution, and industrial supply chains all depend on these khutut. Disruption in military corridors inevitably spills over into civilian sectors. Reports from regional administrations indicate delays in coal shipments, reduced industrial output, and rising transportation costs. Sanctions compound the problem. Replacement parts for signaling systems and control equipment are increasingly difficult to obtain. According to CSIS estimates, a significant portion of Russia's rail automation technology relies on imported components. As these become scarce, repair times increase and system reliability declines further. But beyond strategy and economics lies the human dimension. Imagine thousands of soldiers sitting inside stationary train cars, waiting for orders that never come. Supplies run low. Communication becomes fragmented. Morale begins to erode. These are not soldiers engaged in battle. These are soldiers trapped in a logistical limbo, unable to move forward or retreat. Footage circulating from the region shows long convoys of military trains halted in remote kshetro, surrounded by uncertainty. Some troops have reportedly disembarked and attempted to continue on foot or by improvised transport. This fragmentation weakens unit cohesion and increases vulnerability. Leadership pressure is mounting. Vladimir Putin's military strategy relies heavily on rapid reinforcement and sustained pressure along multiple front lines. Without rail mobility, that strategy becomes unsustainable. Reports from independent analysts suggest growing tension within Russian command structures as delays and failures accumulate. So what happens next? The coming months will determine whether Russia can restore its railway network or adapt to this new reality. Emergency repairs are already underway, but the scale of damage and the threat of repeated strikes make recovery uncertain. Russia may attempt to shift toward road-based logistics, but this presents its own challenges. Trucks cannot match the capacity or efficiency of rail transport, especially over long distances. Ukraine, meanwhile, is likely to continue targeting logistical infrastructure. Success in disrupting railways provides a blueprint for future operations. By focusing on critical nodes and recovery processes, Ukrainian forces can maintain pressure without engaging in costly frontal assaults. This development also carries broader implications for global military doctrine. Nations around the world are observing how infrastructure targeting can achieve strategic outcomes. The lesson is clear. Control of logistics is as decisive as control of territory, but uncertainty remains. Railways can be repaired. Systems can be adapted. The question is whether Russia can do so faster than Ukraine can disrupt them again. This is a race between reconstruction and destruction, and the outcome will shape the next phase of the war. Russia had believed its железнодорожная сеть would guarantee mobility and sustain its forces across vast distances. Instead, that network has been cut, leaving hundreds of thousands of troops stranded and exposed. The backbone of the war machine is no longer stable, and without it, the entire structure begins to collapse. What are your thoughts on this catastrophic disruption? Do you think targeting infrastructure will define the future of warfare? Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like our video. Thank you for choosing us.